How many times have you sat in a classroom and wondered when you would use the learning that was being presented to you? Whether you be in a lecture hall, being presented with information that didn't seem pertinent to you, as learners, we don't always see the big picture in the end. We don't always see what the educator has planned for us and the path that they have us on. This is Amy Esparza again, and as an aspiring leader and doctoral student, I want to take you on a journey today through 3 articles, and I'd like to make a connection for you that I think is really beneficial for us as aspiring leaders. So the articles that I chose to go through and analyze were by Boston Lee, Fisher, and Sorensen. And what I'd really like to cover today and make the connections for you is how we as leaders can utilize the training that we have as leaders, how we can utilize that to help our followers. I also want to look at our personal experiences and how we can use those, and then how good leadership qualities or how we can use what we know to be good leadership qualities to better develop ourselves as leaders and to better inform our decisions as leaders. So I'd first like to spend some time talking about the article about Sorensen, or by Sorensen. So I'm going to show you a visual from the article itself, and within that visual, it's going to show you a few things when it comes to the study that was done. And so within the study, what they did is they looked at some of the different perceptions based on behaviors that were kind of people paid closer attention to with their leaders. So what they did is they did a study on leaders who were given very official leadership training, and they did this study over the course of 3 years. So they focus on task-oriented behavior, relations-oriented behavior, and change-oriented behavior. And over the course of the 3 years, and you'll see in the graph that I will also display for you here, that over the course of the 3 years, you'll see that in year 1, the perception of not only their superiors, their peers, and their subordinates, that the perception was actually much higher than it had been in the past. So those who had that formal training, it actually really benefited all the people around them. Now, when you look at the information from year 2, there's quite a bit of a drop in all 3 areas with all 3 groups of people. But then again, in year 3, you're going to see a spike in that. When you start to see leaders getting that formal training, whether it be the traditional route or through through an employer, that's going to benefit everybody around you, not just the leader, because we can take those skills that are learned and we can take everything that has been learned back to the people that are following us, whether it be our superiors, whether it be our peers, or whether it be our followers or our subordinates. So when it comes to that formal training, everything that's learned there is going to benefit everybody. So one of the things that our district always says is that when we go to trainings, what's learned here leaves here. And so I think that that's a really powerful thing, is that if you're already attending, if you're taking the time out of your day to go to these things, you might as well take what you're learning with you. Otherwise, it's just going to be a waste of time for you. And you can see that within the data that I showed you on the screen. So in addition to formal training, in the other article that I wanted to share with you by Boston Lee is talking about the impact of wise thinking. So with wise thinking, and in this study, what they had is they had 2 groups. They had a control group and an experimental group. And what they did is they had leaders share about their personal experiences. And both groups were given a scenario, and they had to react to the scenario. The control group just had to react based on their own experiences with no other real background given. And the experimental group was given the same scenario, but they were from their leaders, they were shared those personal experiences, those personal narratives. And that's that wise thinking piece. And so the group, you can see from the data that I'll show you here, you can see that with the group that was shared the narrative, that their level of thinking was actually much higher in not only intellectual humility, but also in compromise and understanding others' perspectives. So as a leader, when you're sharing your personal experiences and you're sharing those narratives, it's actually helping those around you better understand situations that they wouldn't have understood otherwise. So as a former teacher and as an educator in general, when you think about, resonating with your students or resonating with the people around you, you have to build background knowledge. And so this is just one of those things that I think really helped in this particular study group, because they were able to build a background knowledge that group wouldn't have had otherwise. So although they didn't experience it themselves, they had something that they could work off of that was really beneficial to them when it came to the study itself. And then in the last area, in the last study that I wanted to share with you was by Fisher. And so with Fisher, what he did, or in that article, what they focused on was the different leadership styles. And so within each of the studies, and there's going to be 4 studies. So in the graphic that you're going to see here, it shows you the 4 studies. And the only part missing from the graphic is just the label for the study on the left. But what you're seeing is you're seeing all of the different behaviors and things, and how each leadership style kind of acted within each of the studies, and then with each proposition, how those outcomes played out. So when it came to the behaviors, you can kind of see how people reacted to those things. And one thing that's really interesting and kind of ironic within this particular study, and one of the conclusions that kind of comes about, is that when you think about leadership in general, and all of the different theories that we've learned about, is they all kind of intertwine. And so they all kind of come together and start to overlap. And what's kind of funny is that, and I'll go ahead and quote the article itself, but he says that if leadership is in the eye of the beholder, then using observer ratings is simply the correct measured choice, and we ought to continue business as usual. So it's more about, with this being said, it's more about the way that people perceive you. And so it's more about those actions. It's more about the way that people perceive your behaviors, your actions, the way that you carry yourself. So you might think that you are a transformational leader, but depending on your behaviors and your mannerisms and the things that you're doing, if it's based on, if people are judging you based on how they see you, then it might not matter how you see yourself as a leader. Their judgments are going to kind of trump what they feel, what you might feel about yourself as a leader. And so I thought that was kind of ironic that after all of these different leadership styles were studied, that was kind of the conclusion that came about. And so when you think about all of these articles and the way that they kind of connected for me, I think the biggest connection is, and I pointed this out at the beginning, but I kind of want to just bring it back. So when we think about the training that we're provided, we can take all of those things back to our leaders. So as a literacy coach on my campus, one of the things that our district kind of teaches us as leaders is that you're always training the next 3. So as a literacy coach, I should be training up the 3 people that could replace me, so that when I move up, there's already somebody there who's ready and willing to go in my place. And so you're building capacity in people after you all the time. So that official training, whether it be through your schooling or through the district or your organization, you're always bringing that information back. And then always sharing your narrative. You have no idea when that's going to be helpful to somebody else. And so always sharing your narrative and helping someone to learn and grow through your narrative. And then lastly, taking what we do know about leadership styles and still bringing about those characteristics and traits. Still acting on, I've always wanted to be, my goal was always to be a transformational leader. So continuing to work towards that and carry myself in that way. Even if it doesn't always have to be the definition of, even though I don't have to be defined by that, I still want to uphold all of those characteristics of being a transformational leader. I still want to be building capacity in, the people who follow me. I still want to be transforming my organization and, making it the best that it can be. And so the more that we know as leaders and the more that we can share with those within our organization, the greater the impact that we can make. And that's truly my goal as a leader.